Watch a bird for long enough and you'll start to feel something close to envy. No rent, no alarm clock, no boss, just wind and wings and the whole open sky. You've probably had the thought before. Animals seem free in a way you're not. They don't sit in traffic. They don't answer emails at 11 p.m. They just live. But is that actually true? Or is it one of the oldest illusions your species has ever told itself? Start with the obvious question. What does free even mean? If it means doing whatever you want, whenever you want, then almost no animal on Earth is free. A wolf doesn't leave the pack because it wants a change of scenery. A worker bee doesn't get a day off. A gazelle spends most of its waking life scanning the horizon for something that wants to kill it. Freedom, in the wild, usually means one thing: survival and nothing more. Every choice an animal makes is filtered through hunger, threat, and reproduction. There's no version of a lion deciding to take up painting. No flamingo taking a gap year. Their entire existence runs on a tight loop, written by millions of years of evolution, with almost no room to deviate. So where did this idea come from? The idea that animals are somehow living the freer life? Some of it comes from a very human mistake. You look at an animal without a job, a mortgage, or a group chat, and your brain fills in the blank with freedom. But what you're actually seeing is the absence of your problems, not the presence of theirs. Here's where it gets more interesting. Primatologist Frans de Waal spent decades studying chimpanzee and bonobo societies, and what he found looked less like freedom and more like politics. Chimpanzee groups run on strict, sometimes brutal hierarchies. Alliances form. Status is fought for. Individuals who step out of line can be attacked, isolated, or worse. If you dropped a chimp into a modern office, it would probably recognize the power struggles instantly. So animals aren't escaping social pressure. They're drowning in it, just without paperwork. Now flip the question around. What if humans, the species you assumed was the least free of all, are actually running on the same rules as everything else, just with more decoration? Anthropologist Robin Dunbar has spent his career studying the size of social groups across species, and one of his most famous findings applies directly here. There's a cognitive limit, often cited around 150 people, to how many stable relationships a human brain can meaningfully track. Beyond that number, you're not really choosing your social world anymore. You're managing it, the same way a troop of monkeys manages its own hierarchy. Different tools, same underlying math. Which brings up something stranger. Biological anthropologist Richard Wrangham has argued that modern humans essentially domesticated themselves over tens of thousands of years, not through cages or leashes, but through social pressure. Aggressive, disruptive individuals were punished, excluded, or in early human groups, sometimes killed by consensus. Over generations, this filtered human populations toward calmer, more cooperative traits. In other words, you are, biologically, a self-tamed animal. Doesn't that change the picture a little? The bird you envied earlier isn't free of rules. It's just following older, blunter ones. Fly south or freeze. Find food or starve. Defend the nest or lose everything. You, on the other hand, are following rules so complex they don't even feel like rules anymore. Social status, reputation, the unspoken agreement to show up on time, to make eye contact, to laugh at the right moment in a conversation. Your cage doesn't have bars. It has expectations. But here's the twist most people miss. Complexity isn't the opposite of freedom. In some strange way, it might be freedom's raw material. A wolf can't choose to leave its pack and build a different kind of life somewhere else. Its options are bounded by instinct, and instinct doesn't negotiate. You, on the other hand, actually can walk away from a job, a city, a version of yourself that no longer fits. Not easily, not without cost, but the door exists. No gazelle has ever changed its mind about what its life is for. You do it more often than you probably notice. That doesn't mean human life feels light. It often feels like the opposite, because along with the freedom to choose, you inherited the burden of choosing. Every option you didn't take sits somewhere in the back of your mind, quietly asking what if. Animals don't carry that weight. Not because they're freer, but because they're not built to ask the question in the first place. So maybe the real difference isn't freedom versus captivity. Maybe it's closer to this. Animals live inside a fixed set of rules they never notice. You live inside a much larger, more flexible set of rules. And you're cursed, or blessed, depending on the day, with the ability to see the bars. That's not nothing. Seeing the shape of your own cage is the first step toward redesigning it. Next time you watch a bird lift off a wire and vanish into open sky, notice what you're really responding to. It's not that the bird is free. It's that, for a few seconds, you got to imagine what it would feel like to want nothing but this exact moment. You already have something the bird doesn't. The ability to choose your next moment on purpose. That bird was never freer than you. It just never had to decide.